Retro.
Hi, this is Fred Tatasciore, and you're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. The Force is strong with both of them.
Welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And TGIF, we are wrapping up the week with a look at some recent Star Wars news. But before we get into that, Jay, you want to go ahead and remind everybody what our social media contacts are?
Absolutely. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust.
All right. The dish is aligned. The signal's boosted to maximum output. The shield's down. We are now broadcasting to the galaxy. So this is the first opportunity we've had to record since we recorded episode 1000. You may have heard episode 1001, but that was recorded the same night. And I was originally going to bring this up at the end of the episode, but now is as good a time as any. Just wanted to I wanted to thank everyone who's reached out to us about that, whether it's been on Instagram or through Discord direct messages, text messages, and the like. There's been quite a response from a lot of people. It's been very nice of you all to let us know what the show meant to you and to kind of celebrate it with us. And we had a great time recording it. I had more fun editing that episode than a lot of episodes I've edited lately. And it was just a lot of fun, Jay. And the response has been great.
Oh, it truly has. And so grateful to everyone that reached out and even created artwork for us. Kendall Schroeder, very awesome. Little cartoony kind of thing for us that he is known for, and just he's so talented and just so wonderful. So we're very blessed to have such wonderful friends and listeners. So if this is your first episode with us, welcome aboard.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I hesitate to start naming a bunch of people because I'm going to leave people out, and I don't mean to ignore anybody or admit any omission is not intentional. But Daz Davies, Alan Zog, Dan Zer, DCL Duo commented on this. Other podcasts were wishing us well and liking the posts and stuff like that. I've heard, like I said, the number of texts I've got, it's been, we didn't solicit responses for that type of a thing. And so when people took it upon themselves to reach out and say, congratulations, love your show, great job, keep it up, here's the next 1000. It's just good to hear from your friends. So
it is. Indeed.
It was fun this week. So again, thank you all for being loyal fans and listeners. We really appreciate that. We'd be having these conversations whether we're recording them and sharing them with you all or not, but it's good to know that someone's getting something out of it. So thank you.
Yes. Listening to us geeking out week after week and episode after episode. We sure do appreciate it. That's for sure.
And just while you say that, week after week, March is probably going to be a little bit of a lighter month. We have a lot going on. So family editions and trips and things like that. So we have yet to figure out what that schedule is going to be, but don't count on 12 episodes next month is where I'm suggesting. I'm hoping to maybe rear some of those shows we talked about in episode 1000 to fill some of the holes, but it's just going to be a challenge next month. So stay tuned for that. Okay. That said, let's dive into the news. And we've really only got one story, but it is a big one. Last week, we were talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu Super Bowl spot. And they've now ramped up the hype machine by giving us the official Mandalorian and Grogu trailer 1 week later. They started it with a tease on Tuesday, and then they dropped the trailer on Wednesday. It's about 2 minutes, 11 seconds long, which is longer than the teaser that they put out on September 22nd of last year, which came in at 1 minute and 35 seconds. Before we get into the details, what was your initial reaction to the trailer, Jay?
Well, first off, again, they pulled a little sneaky one on us. I mean, we've been waiting for a trailer for quite some time now, but they did the same thing for Maul Shadowlord, where they said, "Oh, watch for this tomorrow,"
Yep.
and then boom, here it was. But I mean, just of course, smiling from ear to ear. I mean, this is what we've been waiting for. But of course, it's our little duo going across the galactic road trip together, and we've got some new things and some things that we kind of expected to see, but then definitely some big surprises too. So this 2 minutes and 11 seconds sure was packed with a lot of things to unpack.
Indeed, indeed. And it's fun because, like you said, we got our duo, we got some good callbacks to things that we're used to from prior seasons of The Mandalorian, and some new surprises and some other great
Mhm.
cameos, and a really fun guest voice that we'll talk about
Yes.
here in just a bit as well. So, since this is our only story for this week's news, we are going to go into the trailer in a little bit more detail than we otherwise would have. But opening shot is several X-wings and a Y-wing coming in for a landing at a Delphi base with the sun setting behind them. So it's kind of a classic image that was used in a lot of war movies, especially Vietnam type movies. You usually have like the helicopters coming in with the sun setting behind them, but they
Mhm.
also did something similar to this image in The Force Awakens when
Yes.
the TIE fighters attack Nema Outpost on Jakku.
Yes. And, again, the thing with Star Wars and sunsets kind of
Mhm.
go hand in hand. And I've noticed that quite a bit actually lately as we've been watching and rewatching things.
Right. Yeah. It's a very cinematic shot, of course, but this is followed up by a classic Mando, and Grogu moment. That's hard to say. Mando, and Grogu. Yeah, if you don't say Mandalorian. But anyway,
Right.
classic shot, classic interaction with these two. Mandalorian is powering up his new Razor Crest, and it shorts out because Grogu's busy pushing buttons, and Din Djarin tells him, can't press the buttons, and puts him back in his chair, and Grogu kind of, melts a little bit there.
Mhm.
Fun little callback to what their relationship is.
It is. And in some ways though, I thought to myself, gosh, I was kind of hoping that by now maybe Grogu would mind his manners, if you will, just a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I mean, then again, this is the dynamic that we've, as you said, we've come to expect and we have fallen into comfortably. So it's still endearing.
Yeah. Yeah. So while we're on the topic of the Razor Crest, John Favreau has confirmed that this is, in fact, a new Razor Crest. Not that we should be surprised, but there
Right.
was some consternation after we saw the teaser trailer that they forgot that they blew the thing up. And so while
Oh,
they're
jeez.
well, they're not giving us the details about how he came across a new Razor Crest. And okay, so or maybe they haven't. I just haven't found it yet. But everyone can relax. This is in fact a new ship that they've now the explanation I saw said that it's been um, renamed the Razor Crest, but I always kind of got the feeling that was actually the name of the ship type. So, and
That's what I
especially when,
thought. Yeah.
well, in the Book of Boba Fett, when he went to see Pelimoto about getting a ship, and she presented the N1, Naboo starfighter, he's like, "That's not a Razor Crest." So he was clearly
Right.
talking about a type of ship in that
Hmm.
situation. So
Unless he was using the name kind of like, well, like, "That's no Millennium Falcon," kind of thing, almost
yeah,
as a name in and of itself to, like, designate it being in its own a class in and of itself kind of thing. But this one's definitely a lot I think it's a lot shinier.
yeah,
It
it's got
looks
more
yeah,
visible paint on it too,
you're right,
than
the
the other one.
yellow.
Right.
Mhm.
So the next scene that we have is the Mandalorian is arrived in a city, and he walks up to kind of like it's not a food truck, but it's a food stall. And there's an Ardennian. And if you don't remember what one of those are, or you didn't pay careful attention, it's the four-limbed monkey-like creature that we first met in Solo Star Wars Story. Rio Durant was the character, and it was voiced by John Favreau of all people.
Mhm.
And so the Mandalorian comes up looking for information, puts a Republic credit down on the desk, and the Ardennian says, "Well, for that, I'll tell you anything you want." And as soon as the Mandalorian, I should just start calling him Din, so I don't do that Mandu thing. But as soon as Din Djarin says, "I need information about a hut," the Ardennian jumps up and we're closed for the night, and slams the little grate down on top of that. this is all fun, but it's even made better by the fact that it's Martin Scorsese that's doing the voice of this Ardennian.
Yes. So cool, which of course I didn't know until it was all over the internet that that's who it was. But then when you hear it, you're like, "Oh my gosh, yes, that I can completely hear that now. That gravelly voice, so iconic."
I can't remember what the outlet was, but I was looking for Star Wars news earlier today, and it's all dominated by this trailer. There's not a whole lot else that's being talked about. I guess there's also a little bit more of Soderbergh talking about the Hunt for Ben Solo not being made, but I didn't really find anything new there other than the fact that they were frustrated. So that's why it's not an item in this week's news. But at any rate, the one of the stories about that I can't remember the outlet said was that Martin Scorsese offers peace offering to nerds everywhere after he had made those disparaging comments about like the MCU not being cinema.
Right.
And then I think it may have been on X, but I saw a screen grab of this that when they had an image of this Ardennian, and the Star Wars official account said something like absolute cinema. So playing on the whole brouhaha that arose a few years ago. So
That's perfect.
yeah, it's fun that he did this. You know,
Oh,
I
yeah, for
don't
sure.
know how much more of a role it is beyond that few seconds, but that's enough. So
Mhm.
then we see Din Djarin meeting with the Hutt twins. Not much happens in that part of the trailer. And
But
then we
press
see
pause for just a second. Did
sure.
you catch a glimpse of those 2 guards that were standing on either side of the entrance? These things were like Transformers on steroids. And
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
I don't know that we seen this specific class of droid before in terms of the mass and the scale of this? I'm just curious.
Um
I don't think we have.
I didn't pay that much attention. I do know in the teaser that came out in September, there was a number of robot type things that were in the arena that he was
Mhm.
fighting.
Mhm.
So maybe they belong to that same conglomerate of droids, but I
Mhm.
don't know.
Okay. Okay. Because 'Cause they're massive.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So I'll have to go back and look for that again to just to get a better look at that. But there's a whole lot
It's at
more stuff going on
27
there.
seconds, just so you know.
Okay. So then we get a meeting room with a bunch of Imperials, and we see some stormtroopers patrolling it. And okay, one of the things I'd heard is that, and this also gets alluded to later in the trailer, is that there are a collection of Imperial warlords that have set up their own little fiefdoms here in the Imperial Remnant, and the Mandalorian is going about trying to knock them out. And we'll see another reference to this when we see Sigourney Weaver's character kind of talking about this not being about revenge; it's about preventing another
Mhm.
war. So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, skipping ahead there, but I just want to make sure that we check in on kind of note the importance of this because it's not as obvious why they showed us that until you get later into the trailer. And then, yeah, the very next scene, the Mandalorian is saying to Sigourney Weaver's characters, "We'll take care of every bad guy in your deck of cards." And he ends up like wandering around with a card from a Sabak.
Oh, the
A
Sabacc
Sabak.
cards,
Yeah,
yes.
he ends up wandering around with Sabak card as well.
Mhm.
And here's one thing. This is where I think Grogu starts to do fun. He does a salute there to Sigourney Weaver's character there, and we get to see some other movements out of him that are unlike things that we got to see out of any of the previous 3 seasons of The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett. So I don't know if they're employing more CGI or they're just investing more time into animating that puppet. But
Mhm.
he does seem to be capable of doing more here than what we've previously seen out of him.
Oh, yeah, for sure, and that salute, instantly I thought of Lando Calrissian
Oh yeah.
because, we see that specific salute, but I think a lot of it is because now we see Grogu also being more of a partner to Din and not just a companion, so I think that he's becoming a lot more, oh, I don't know, confident, I guess you could say, in what he's doing on by his side. So
Right.
maybe that's why too.
Yeah. This is followed up by the Mandalorian entering a room with his flamethrower blasting, and then 2 stormtroopers are impacted, and one falls over, and then he kind of does that no-look shoot from the hip behind him shot to shoot that stormtrooper there. So reminded me very much of the final episode of season 1 of The Mandalorian, where he comes out of the cantina and just does that, shoots sideways across his shoulder to take out the stormtrooper there. So it's a old trick, but it's a goodie.
Absolutely.
Then there is a U-Wing landing at a Delphi base. So it's not really a surprise because we did get to see that U-Wing in the teaser back in September, the Mandalorian flying up to land in it. By the way, we do know what Sigourney Weaver's character's name is. She is Colonel Ward. And this is where we get the line about, this isn't about revenge, it's about preventing another war. So, okay. I mean, we don't know a whole lot about her other than she is a pilot in the Republic, and she's the ones assigning the Mandalorian these missions. I am wondering if what's his face, the captain, Carson Teva, is going to be in this at all.
I would like to think so. That maybe that's something that they're keeping in their back pocket for now, and not just showing us everything all at once, which would make sense. But yeah, we didn't know Sigourney Weaver's character, as you said before this, and obviously the last name Ward is not one that we know in Star Wars before this. So brand new character, brand new lineage.
Indeed. This is followed up by Grogu using the Force to disable what I've described as an ATV mouse droid. I mean, this is a mouse droid with little monster wheels on it.
Sunday.
Yeah. And then he looks very satisfied as he busts this thing with the Force, and then one of the wheels goes bouncing past him there. After that, I don't know what the world is, but we get to see a bunch of what appears to be droids running across, I guess, what is a hangar, but it looks like tubes that are launching starfighters. And they go by so fast that you really can't make out what they are. I paused it a bunch of times, and sometimes I thought they were Vulture droids. Other times they look like Vulture droids with a big bubble on the back, and sometimes they look like things that I just couldn't identify there. I don't know exactly what this is. I've seen some speculations that this is Nal Hutta, where the Hutts live.
Okay.
But it looked a little too, I don't know how to describe it or say it, the environmental intact to be Nal Hutta, from what I know about that from Legends, which Nal Hutta is supposed to be like a ruined world, like completely polluted and almost unlivable. I mean, that's the way it looked in the Clone Wars. So I don't know if this is that or not, but that seems to be what the speculation is.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you said, it goes by so fast, but the droids that are like the soldier droids, they look almost like Magna Guards in a way because they have capes and everything.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of vines and overgrowth on some of these exhaust vents and things. So it's definitely, it looks like more of a, like this remnant, if you will. But yeah, it's hard to say.
It is. Yeah, it's hard to say. And, I guess the only caution is that we speculate on these things and we're wrong. I'm thinking of, the Force Awakens trailer. We all thought we were looking at Tatooine, and ended up being a brand new planet called Jakku. So,
but that's still part of the fun.
Exactly. So after that, we see the Razor Crest going to hyperspace, and then another shot that made everyone pause. Embo from the Clone Wars is marching in the rain. Perhaps he's marching on the Mandalorian and Grogu's home on Navarro. I can't tell, but there'd been rumors he was going to be in this, and I guess we've got that confirmation now.
Oh, so cool. So cool. Yeah, this shot of him walking up and it's just raining and it's just, it's nighttime and it's so dark and dank and everything like that. It just fits perfectly with Embo just coming into that sort of cinematic entrance. And wow, my jaw just dropped when I saw him. And we were, like you said, we were hoping we were going to get something like this and teased a little bit of that. But I know my son Colby, he was so excited. I mean, just so excited to see Embo.
Yeah.
So it's very much Clone Wars fans' dream.
This is a character that I would not have put in my top 10 or 20 of Clone Wars crossovers, characters into live action. So it's cool that they made that one work. But then we get a couple other scenes in rapid succession. First off, the Mandalorian's helmet gets removed. He's on his knees. It looks like his hands tied behind his back, and someone rips off his helmet. And then the male twin of the Hutts says, "You will suffer, and then it will be his turn," which is followed up by an image of Embo approaching Grogu in the rain. So there's a lot of questions here, and this is already going long. But first off, I can't help but wonder what the Mando's helmet being removed means at this stage of things, because it was a huge obstacle when Mandalore was believed to be like completely irradiated. You couldn't go to the surface. The mines have been destroyed, and so you couldn't get to the living waters or whatever they called them. And now that's not even a thing. And so with it being something that doesn't seem like it's a challenge to achieve, going to and bathing in those waters, is it even a like redemptive act at this point, or is it even considered a sin for those that are children of the Watch? I'll be interested to see how they treat that.
Yeah. Well, I think for Din too, it was his own personal choice to recommit to
Uh-huh.
the way, if you will, and then for his helmet to be removed without his consent like that, and then for, you get that shot of the Hut just kind of casually holding the helmet off to the side is just a kind of a spit in the face sort of thing. And then of course Din is very upset because the reference to making any kind of harm to Grogu.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is this trailer. We have to be careful with this because these things are edited out of all kinds of order all the time.
Sure. Mhm.
Embo's approaching Grogu, and it looks like it's menacing. So Embo is one of those characters who's been a bad guy and been a good guy, depending on what episode of the Clone Wars we're talking about. So
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
curious exactly what his role is in all of this, but we'll find out.
Right.
But then um, Din says to Grogu, I guess I should say Djarin says to Grogu, "Before going into harm's way, check your armor." And we get to see Grogu suit up. He puts on his rondo on,
Yes.
and so he just kind of, it's the Iron Man light scene there with him getting his armor on.
And his little mini whistling birds. I know they're not whistling birds, but his little wrist launcher thing. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. What you got to see in the teaser, he used to hit that monster in the face with the paint.
Yes.
Right. Action shot of the Razor Crest blowing something up, and then Grogu is on a speeder with a bunch of Enzellans, the little droid smiths that we
Oh
first
my
got to
gosh,
meet with
love
Babu
this.
Frick. Yeah, and then we get a bit of a montage here with Din Djarin saying, "The kid will live centuries beyond me. I won't always be around to protect him." While we see scenes of Grogu walking through a swamp with a walking stick,
Yeah.
doing Yoda proud.
Yeah.
Grogu doing some meditating, and then he's swimming before Din Djarin pulls him out of the water there. So looks like Din Djarin is taking the whole training and journeys thing very seriously in this regard.
Indeed. And I just think it was so perfect the way that they edited that when he says, "The kid will live centuries beyond me." And as you pointed out, Grogu's got a walking stick. And it kind of also looks like a snake in some ways too. But that's so Yoda. The centuries beyond is just, oh gosh, it just punctuates that that feeling of
Uh-huh.
nostalgia, but looking forward at the same time.
Yep. Yep. And then we get our best shot of Rhoda the Hutt yet. He is in the
Yeah.
arena armed with a couple of axes, and Din Djarin charges him there.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yes, he's looking very buff, Rhoda
Yeah.
is.
This movie's got a lot going on. I mean,
Yeah,
we
it
have
does.
barely, between we saw the teaser and we got to see the AT-AT that he takes out, and so there's a lot going on there. We know there's other scenes that were in a sizzle reel that they showed at Celebration that have not made it to the general public yet. We know he's going after Imperial warlords. He's got something going on with the Hutts. I feel like this trailer is only showing us like maybe the first act of the movie or so. I don't know that we're getting too far into things here, which is works for me because
Oh, yeah.
we always used to joke that you'd go see a trailer for a movie in the 80s and you'd basically get the whole movie in 2 minutes.
Exactly. It's
And
so
so
true.
thankfully they've kind of gotten away from that, because you always end up, when they do those type of things, in the back of your head, it's like, well, I haven't seen this scene from the trailer yet. So something's coming up, but they've done much better with that over the last 20 years or so.
They have indeed. And it's so funny because when you see this shot of Mando going after Rhoda in the arena, all I could think of was, he's a friend from work.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good
I
callback too.
know him. Sorry, a
So
little crossover there.
it's all good. I made one earlier with Iron Man, so you're on par. But a creature rises up and asks Grogu if he's scared and says, "You should be," which is kind of the inverse Yoda thing.
Yes,
Luke saying, "I'm not afraid." Oh, you will be. You will be.
exactly.
So I don't know if that was intentional or what, but oh,
And what kind of person, creature is this?
I
This
don't
is
know.
very different and very new.
Yeah, yeah. But then we see a giant creature emerge from the water and confront a helmetless Din Djaren, which appears to be the same dragon snake that we've seen appear in the Clone Wars. Just as
Mhm.
recently as the Hunt for Zero episode that we just talked about a couple weeks ago.
Right,
There was
yeah.
one that Obi-Wan took out. And then
Now
there
this isn't back on Mandalore, is it? This can't possibly be.
well, I mean, I don't think so, but it could lean credence that he's on Nal Hutta at some point.
Mhm. This is
So,
true, yeah,
yeah.
mhm.
We get the question, do we run or do we fight? Mandalorian's asking Grogu that. Then we get our debut of Zeb in this trailer. We've seen him, of course, in the teaser, but we see him taking on a bunch of stormtroopers. And we get two shots, Grogu using the Force and then some stormtroopers crashing. It's unclear whether those two shots are related or not. And Zeb follows that up by saying, I like this kid. So,
That's
um,
great.
one of the things I've been seeing asked online, which is, why isn't he with the rest of the crew of the Ghost anywhere?
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
that's a great question because he has been kind of, an army of one going around, but he was with Carson Teva for a while, which, to your point earlier, may lean into potentially getting to see him again as
yeah,
well.
well, and Carson was at a Delphi base, and we know that that
Right?
appears here. So I'm assuming that's why
Mhm.
we got his involvement in this. And maybe he'll show up in season 2 of Ahsoka and get a chance to hang with Hera and Ezra before Sabine and Ahsoka make it back from if they make it back from that other galaxy there. So
Mhm.
there is that
Mhm.
potential, but it
For
is.
sure.
I just wonder why they all. He went so much of a different way from everybody else. But
Yeah.
um, a cool action shot of the Mandalorian sliding and shooting while a droid collapses. And then we get vehicles crashing on the planet from earlier where the fighters were taking off. So that's some extension on that scene. And then, well, any comments on those before we get into this next little area of
Not really.
things?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just cool action,
right.
of course.
Well, we see a bunch of monsters break through a door and out onto the street, led by one from the Jarrett table, the Millennium Falcon, which is called a Mantelian Savrip. But what is really cool, well, I'll let you tell it because there's a neat little Easter egg there in that shot.
Yes, there is indeed. So as they're breaking through the door, there is a sign in Aurabesh at the top, and when you translate it, it says Weathers Apollo.
Yeah.
Wonderful tribute to Carl Weathers.
Yeah, I'm glad they did that. I'm assuming
Me
that we'll also get
too.
some sort of a in memory or dedicated to our friend Carl Weathers type of a message either before or after the movie, probably after.
Mhm.
But this is nice because it's like not so on the nose. First, you have to be able to translate the Arabesh, and it just doesn't say Carl Weathers, or
Mhm.
it's this. If you can translate it and you can read it, you know what it means. So that's
Mhm.
pretty cool. But so, as what appears to be an extension of this, there's people panicking in the street, and we see a Rhodian, I'm assuming it's a woman, pull her baby out from a pram. Cute little Rhodian baby.
Yes.
I mean, I know we've seen an animated one, but who knew they'd look so cute in live action?
Exactly.
And then the Mandalorian asks Grogu what he's waiting for, and he goes and jumps into the pram, activates it, and flies off. And then the Mandalorian is in quick pursuit with his jetpack, and then they head off towards the Savrip. And so, um, yeah, looking like it's setting up some sort of a showdown there.
That pram was souped up, man.
Yeah, a lot faster than anything Grogu had before. So,
Yeah, why does little baby Rodian need such a hot rod, but it works.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like detachable from a vehicle or something, but so it's got the propulsion for that reason, but whatever.
There you go.
Then we get the title scene or shot for the movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu. And then we get a little, teaser at the end of it where Din Djaren takes away a foil package of macarons from Grogu and it says, "Let's save the rest for after dinner." Such a parent move right there. And then Grogu still got one in his hand and he kind of coos and takes a bite out of it. So, obvious callback to season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Yes, they better capitalize on the marketing for those and so those macaroons in the concession stand at the movies. I
That would
would
be
buy a
fun.
12-pack of those for sure.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think some of the reaction to the teaser was a bit muted overall, but this seems to be a bit more well received from what I can gather. I mean, I love the teaser, but we now have a little bit better idea of the story. Not a lot of concrete details, but it does seem like it's got more of a epic scope to it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's our legendary storytelling with a bit of a twist for sure.
All right. Well, any other final thoughts on that before we wrap things up?
Just so excited. So excited. I mean, I think we've covered everything in great detail, so we'll just have to wait to see what's next.
Indeed. All right. Okay, well then, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of Star Wars News, which is really just a discussion of the Mandalorian Grogu trailer. Thank you all for joining us, and if you haven't done so, we'd invite you to subscribe to the podcast if you on your podcatcher of choice, and you'll get our weekly look at news downloaded automatically for you, as well as the other episodes we do over the course of the week. And once you've done that, we'd appreciate your ratings and reviews wherever you can on online. That helps get the show in front of more people. And then I'd like to remind you can find the entire back catalog, all previous 1001 shows over at retrozap.com. Jay, you want to go ahead and give everybody our social media contacts one more time and let them know where else they can find us. Jay, you want to go ahead and let everyone know what our social media contacts are one more time and where else they can find us on the internet.
You got it, Dennis. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust. We also have tons of Pinterest boards that you can check out. And please subscribe to our YouTube outlets, which includes the traditional YouTube and YouTube Music. You can also drop us a line at podcaststardust@gmail.com. And if you need some new merch, TeePublic has actually updated some of their choices, and the link to that is in our show notes. So you can actually now get socks and workout shorts and ball caps. I have to get a ball cap because I never have enough hats. So once again, TeePublic, and the link to that is in our show notes.
All right. You want to remind everybody what's going on in cosplay?
Yeah. So on my Instagram, you can check out all the things I'm up to at j.snips cosplay. And once again, I'm Ahsoka, Hera, the fourth sister, original concept Mandalorian, very apropos, as well as some other things as well.
Okay. So upcoming on the show, Monday, we have the next installment in the Clone Wars rewatch. We'll be looking at, I think it's episode 11 from season 3. And then on Wednesday, it's the next segment in our The Force Awakens series. We've already recorded that one. It was a lot of fun. We're talking about about 10 minutes and 40 seconds to about 23 minutes and 40 seconds on that one if you want to get prepared in advance. And we have a good guest, so make sure you check that out. Okay, thanks for listening to episode 1002 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great weekend, and until next time, may the Force be with you.